Okay, bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Trisna Sinta Savitri and I'm from Group A. I want to explain our material about abstract. Picture said, I have long been interested in the characteristic associated with good teaching. However, because cultural background has a strong influence on the way of good teaching prefers, the current study seeks to compare how many students and school teachers' perception of good English characteristic as a foreign language teacher (EFL) in the context of Yaman. To achieve this, 171 how many students and 233 English teachers responded to 7 categories. 68. The item questionnaire uses a 4-point linear type response key. Descriptive statistics and tests are used to determine perfection of good teacher characteristic and difference between students and teacher response. Results show that how many students and teachers generally agree on the importance of all characteristic categories. With those related to English fabulous freckles factor that affect effectiveness, teaching has long attacked the action of British as an English EFL researcher. The concept of a good teacher has been explored from a number of perspectives over the decades, but most of these investigations have been concise in contents and tends to explore teachers across discrete lines. J. Qualtings, 2007. Some research conducted in a non-Western context, including in Eastern countries, such as the United Arab Emirates, UAE, Saudi Arabia, Yemen, Oman, and Iran. In the case of the EFL, literature presents a number of important findings. Characteristic system form generally help the perfection that their outcomes can help identify the needs and expression of their students and therefore work to meet them. No, this characteristic can help teachers improve their pedagogical practice by allowing them to improve good characteristics of students and find ways to address those who are underprivileged or considered profit for a particular teaching context. A good teacher, including EFL or English teachers as a second language (ESL), has many of the same characteristics regardless of subject area. With 2003 divides these characteristics into the main categories: instructional competence, personality, and teacher-student relationship. According to the order, instruction competency, including the ability of teachers to make students enter classrooms, providing sufficient content, knowledge, and maintain a professional attitude, is most appreciative of the three categories by students. The personality of the teachers, on the other hand, relates to the individual traits that the instructor brings to the classroom, and understandably, as including the level of patience and understanding the warmth they display, their willingness to their students, and so on. Determination of teacher-students relationship, the third category here, and may very important in a society where interpersonal relationships in the classroom are considered more important rather than the nature of the interaction itself. Davis 2001 agrees that this relationship can directly contribute to the learning and examine result. Brock 2006 is built on the category of serious good teacher by asserting that most of the characterization good teachers tend to contain ideas related to the field of knowledge, skill, and attitude towards learning. In addition, Brock also stated that these characteristics can be complemented by practices such as friendly. Given an excellent record, do the game, use humor, and do not encourage students to be left behind the rest of the class. Soto, 2011, added that good teachers are those who support learners to be more confident and truthful. In general, good teachers of all disciplines have some quality, which gives us them to be referred to as good or average instruction. However, English differs from other subjects teacher in a number of ways, which may be related to the nature of English as a subject. In particular, Board 2016 that these different techniques can be said to include the contrast between native and non-native speakers of English, the focus on skill-related objects, the centrality of communication abilities to the classroom, and the subject's keen adoption of different teaching methods and activities. Although Colmegre and Debel 2013 maintain that affects teachers share a number of similar qualities irrespective of their subject matter. The noodles state that there are several vital differences in those characteristics between effective EFL teachers and other teachers. The characteristics that are marked and table offer as being more important among EFL teachers include having a good measure of English, including sound pronunciation and moral activity influence students in classroom activities. The context between the native reseller and the non-native English speakers. Focus on the skill of object certainty of communicative ability to classroom and the subsequent adaptation of teaching methods and activities. Although Colmegre and Table 2013 maintain teachers effective share or number of similar quality and that cannot be expected from their subject matter. They maintain that there are some important differences in these characteristics effective EFL teacher and others teacher. Teachers as being able to employ a variety of teaching methods, attempting to help students to understand what is called, having the ability to correct enjoyably class, practicing validates, providing worksheet and headset, giving opportunity for students to practice their speaking skill, and maintaining effective classroom management. These are characteristics that different the hierarchy of overall between the cultures of the Arab Gulf. Kelas 2007, Karmi 2010 could also be agreed to be valued by many learners. The learner's gender may also be another important factor that influences the characteristic key value in the teacher. For example, Ken and Lynn's 2009 investigation of 119 and 8 junior high school students of English internally revealed difference between male and female students, perfection of effective EFL teaching. In particular, from my students tending to value the teacher's personality, the nature of teacher-student relation, the way in which teachers motivate learners, and how aware they are of the cultures associated with English speaking courses. On the, on the other hand, male students tended to consider traits like respecting students and being ethical as more important. In addition to Gender Board 2006 stated that the teacher linguistic and ethics background may also be considered important for EFL or ESL learners. In particular, certain learners may prefer the teachers to be native speakers of English as the sign which for them may almost exclusively refer to citizens of the North defining inner recognition. G4 2010. While some may prefer teachers from their own culture as closer models of successful English language learners. Within the Gulf state, it has been claimed that non-native teachers are mediocre and that native English speakers are preferred at least at the institutional level, Carmi 2005. Whether or not this is the case in human in lack of the increased pace of performance across sector, including higher education remains. However, as a question of debate, students were initially convinced by their supervisors who served as research assistants and whose responsibility was to collect data from class for English teachers they did not supervise. The questionnaires were in Arabic and were distributed in class. Prior to questionnaire distribution, or supervisor explaining the purpose of the study in Arabic and later read a message in Arabic to emphasize the anonymity and confidentiality of students' response. However, is the related uniformity students and teachers based on the incorporation of ET into EFL cases. Thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, my name is Sulistina Ulfa, and I will continue to explain the material that is student result. According to Table 1 about student questionnaire category totals, from some of these data results, students believe that a teacher must, first, teachers' awareness of the importance of teaching like practice. 2. Come to class on time. 3. Preparing for class. 4. Don't differentiate between one student and another student. 5. A teacher must always be kind and care about the understanding of his students. 6. It was important for their teachers to be enthusiastic about teaching and to be confident and have a self-control. 7. An English teacher should be creative in the classroom. And 8. Be innovative in addressing student difficulties and needs. 9. Have a good sense of humor and appearance. And the last is build good relationship with their students. And according to Table 2 about teacher questionnaire category totals, from some of this data, the teacher also states that students must have the following characteristics. First, prepare to learn, come to class on time, and speak in a loud and clear voice. Then the result of the next data are the same as in the Table 1. That is, the teacher must have a good relationship with their students, the teacher and student have humor in the learning atmosphere to be fun, the teacher must be patient in teaching students to understand the subject, encourage learning contribution, use tools audiovisual or multimedia in teaching, and the most important thing is that the teacher have the ability to communicate in English well, having a high level of English proficiency, the ability to know how to evaluate the students. And the next material is comparison of students and the teacher result. For all questionnaire groups, significant difference exists between student and teacher participants, with teacher participant reporting significantly higher groups means than students. This suggests that English teacher in Oman consider each of the 7 groups featured in the questionnaire to be more important than Jewish students, even though students do still consider them to be important. Perhaps not surprisingly, given these findings, student participants added other items related to the English proficiency and the equitable treatment of students to this list, with the following items also rated by students as being among the most important characteristics of English teachers, that is, have a high level of English proficiency, care about all students, be tolerant of students in comprehension, and have a good rapport with students. Of the 3 remaining items that student participants believe to be the last important, 2 were concerned with teacher professional development. That is, student, though it was relatively unimportant for their English teacher to participate in teacher professional growth events such as seminars, workshops, conferences, and other, and do be actively involved in learning new skills to improve teaching. Okay, thank you.
I'm Anissa Wadarut. I want to explain part G. This is discussion. The current research sought to explore student and teacher perceptions about the most important teacher characteristic within the Omani context. In particular, students thought it to be relatively unimportant for their English teacher to be participate in professional development events and to actively seek opportunities to develop new skills, even though somewhat contradictorily, they nonetheless expected them to keep abreast of the latest developments in ELT. The first, what are the characteristics of a good EFL teacher according to Omani high school student? Okay, the first point to note the response to this research question is that all 7 questionnaire categories were considered by student participants to be important for their EFL instructor, while only 2 of 89 questionnaire items were ciphered means below, which places them in the somewhat important rather than important response range. Okay, and the second question is exploring the characteristic of a good EFL teacher according to EFL instruction in Oman, like the student participants. Okay, participants, teacher believe it that all of the questionnaire categories were important, with 2 of the 3 most important again being knowledge related to general characteristics and effective variables. And the third research question is exploring the areas of similarities and difference in student and teacher perception of the characteristic of good EFL teacher. While tests revealed statistically significant difference between the 2 groups or participants in their perception of the importance of all 7 questionnaire categories, their differences were, as noted above it, instead of conviction rather than direction. Okay, for example, both student and teacher participant agreed about the importance of EFL teacher displaying high level of English language proficiency, with it also being important for teacher to treat their learners with equality and respect. Okay, this is from me. Thank you.
Okay, Bismillah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nurul Amalia from English Education Class C. And now I want to read the conclusion of the paper. The current research sought to explore the characteristic of good EFL teacher in the Omani High School context as perceived by Omani students and teachers working in the context. Findings indicate that both students and teachers tend to agree about the importance of all 7 questionnaire category areas, with characteristics related to having a high level of English language proficiency and treating students equally and with respect being of special importance. Moreover, participants agreed that a knowledge of also is EFL classes were relatively unimportant. The only potential area of divergence between student and teacher participants was in relation to professional development, with teachers maintaining that participating in opportunities to enhance their pedagogical skills was important, while students stated that this area was relatively unimportant, even if they did expect their instructor to stay up to date with the latest developments in the field. However, this discrepancy in interpretation of the potential value of professional development is unlikely to have an immediate negative influence on the classroom. The area that may have a more detrimental impact, however, is the relative unimportance students and teachers place on the incorporation of IT into EFL classes. In addition, the fact that both students and teachers see little value in EFL instructor being aware of Western culture may be an expression of their awareness of the utility of English as an international language outside the ownership of inner circle nations, or of suspicion of the potential of Western values associated with the language due to their potential to annihilate learners from their own cultural backgrounds. Student and teacher believes that understanding this aspect of non-Arab or Western culture is not important, therefore may not only go against one of the aims of the EFL syllabus, but may also be detrimental to learning outcomes by limiting the development of learners' cultural understanding of the language they are studying. This is an issue that has been explicitly addressed. Despite a number of limitations, such as the potential influence of self-selections and gender biases and the dominance of both teacher and student sample by participants from the Batina South Governorate. This investigation nonetheless suggests that discrepancies between student and teacher perceptions of the characteristic of a good EFL instructor in the Omani High School context are not a major issue of concern, and that the general overlap between participants about the relative importance of teachers' characteristics will contribute to. Rather than detract from improving learner English language skill, future research building on these findings and taking into account The limitations covered above will help provide greater clarity about whether this is true of learners and teachers of English across the Omani government school system and outside of the dominant governorate of Batina South feature in the research. I think that's all. Thank you.